A gate agent in Stockholm watched an American businessman storm up to her counter, pointing at the departure board with genuine panic in his eyes. "Ma'am, I need you to be honest with me. Are these electric planes?" She blinked twice. "I'm sorry." He leaned in conspiratorially. "The planes. They're too quiet. I've been sitting at this gate for 40 minutes and I haven't heard a single jet engine. Either you're running some kind of experimental silent aircraft program, or," he paused dramatically, "someone's pumping white noise into this terminal to cover up a major aviation safety issue. I need to know which one before I board, because I have rights under the FAA." She glanced at the perfectly normal Boeing 737 visible through the window, then back at him. "Sir, Swedish airports use sound insulation. The planes are regular planes, just quieter terminals." He shook his head slowly, pulling out his phone. "That's exactly what they told people before the Boeing 737 MAX incident. I'm documenting everything. This level of silence is unnatural. Planes are supposed to be loud, that's how you know they're working." The gate agent watched him film the completely normal departure gate while other passengers boarded without concern, wondering how to explain that not everything needs to sound like an action movie. The thing about Nordic airport design is that it prioritizes passenger comfort. Americans who grew up in terminals that sound like industrial factories tend to interpret peace and quiet as evidence of conspiracy. An Airbnb host in Ljubljana opened her door to find her American guest standing outside at 11 p.m., refusing to enter. "I can't stay here," the woman announced, arms crossed. "Where are all the sirens?" The host looked confused. "Sirens? Police sirens, ambulances, car alarms, city sounds. I've been walking around for 2 hours, and it's completely silent except for people talking and some tram bells. This is either the most aggressively regulated police state I've ever seen, or crime is so bad that emergency services have given up entirely. Either way, I'm not comfortable." She'd already called her credit card company to dispute the charge, citing suspicious absence of urban noise pollution as a safety concern. A pharmacy clerk in Tallinn spent 20 minutes trying to sell cold medicine to an American woman who kept insisting she needed the real stuff, not the European version. When he explained that the medication was identical to American brands, just with different packaging, she leaned in and whispered, "Then why is everything so aggressively quiet in here? American pharmacies have music, announcements, beeping. This is like a library. You're definitely hiding something about these medications. What's actually in them?" She left without buying anything, later posting a TripAdvisor review warning that Estonian pharmacies were suspiciously peaceful, possibly a front for something. A museum curator in Bruges fielded an increasingly agitated complaint from an American couple who'd spent 30 minutes in the groaning museum before demanding a refund. "This isn't a real museum," the husband insisted. "We've been to the Smithsonian, the Met, MoMA. Actual museums have sounds. Footsteps echoing, kids on school trips, security guards talking into radios, audio guides overlapping. This place is silent except for whispers. It's psychological warfare." His wife nodded vigorously. "Everyone's acting like they're in church. Americans don't whisper in museums, we have freedom of speech. This is clearly some kind of European social experiment about behavioral control, and we didn't consent to participate." The curator tried explaining that many European museums maintain quiet atmospheres out of respect for both art and other visitors. "Respect for art?" the man interrupted. "The Mona Lisa has crowds screaming and taking selfies, and it's doing just fine. You're gaslighting us about normal museum behavior. I'm reporting this to TripAdvisor and the U.S. Embassy's Cultural Affairs Office." He then proceeded to make a phone call at full volume in the medieval art section, seemingly to prove his point about American normalcy, while other visitors stared in genuine confusion. A bus driver in Porto watched an American tourist refuse to board his bus, standing at the door with arms crossed. "Where's the engine noise?" the tourist demanded. "I've been watching buses come and go for 10 minutes and they're all way too quiet." These are definitely electric buses, which means they're experimental technology, which means they haven't been fully safety tested. I'm not being a guinea pig for Portugal's green energy agenda. The driver gestured at the very conventional diesel engine. "Sir, you can literally see the exhaust. It's a regular bus. Portuguese buses are just maintained better and have better sound insulation than what? American buses? Now you're insulting American engineering." The tourist pulled up something on his phone. "I'm looking at NHTSA regulations right now, and there are minimum sound requirements for vehicles so pedestrians can hear them coming. Your bus is definitely below that threshold. This is a safety violation and possibly illegal under international motor vehicle conventions." He then spent 15 minutes trying to find the Portuguese equivalent of the Department of Transportation on his phone while the bus, full of patient locals who dealt with this monthly during tourist season, waited. When he finally boarded, after the driver assured him 3 times that Portugal and the US were NATO allies and thus shared safety standards, he live-streamed the entire ride, providing commentary about how suspiciously smooth and quiet everything felt, clearly designed to lull passengers into a false sense of security. A hotel concierge in Tallinn received a noise complaint at 2 a.m. from an American guest, but not the usual kind. "I need you to check on the room next to mine," the guest insisted over the phone. "Either everyone on this floor is dead, or you've put me in some kind of isolation ward. I haven't heard a single sound through these walls, no TV, no conversation, no footsteps, no plumbing. In American hotels, you can hear everything. That's how you know there are actually people there. This is like sensory deprivation." The concierge explained that Estonian building codes require serious sound insulation between units. "That's what you're telling guests?" the American interrupted. "That the government mandates you can't hear your neighbors? Do you realize how dystopian that sounds? In America, we value knowing there's life around us. It's called community. This is like living in a padded cell." She demanded to be moved to a normal floor with normal walls, and, when told all floors had the same construction standards, asked if there was an American-owned hotel chain nearby. "I need to hear at least some ice machine noise or hallway conversation or I won't be able to sleep. This silence is unnatural and honestly kind of threatening." The concierge noted in the system that the guest had complained about the hotel being too well constructed. A bank teller in Ljubljana watched an American customer become increasingly paranoid during a routine transaction. "Why is everyone whispering?" the American asked, looking around the bank lobby. "At Bank of America, people talk at normal volume. This is like you're all sharing secret. Are you discussing me? Is this about my account?" The teller explained that Slovenians generally speak quietly in public spaces, especially professional environments. "That's not a thing," the American insisted. "Humans don't naturally whisper unless they're hiding something. This is either cultural suppression of free expression, or you're all trained to keep American customers from hearing important information. Which is it?" She then demanded her transaction be conducted at normal speaking volume so I can ensure everything is being done correctly, and proceeded to loudly discuss her account balance and recent purchases while every other customer in the quiet bank turned to stare. When the teller asked her to lower her voice, she filmed the interaction, announcing she was documenting financial institutions' attempts to restrict American communication norms, and threatened to report the bank to international banking regulators for discriminatory noise policies. A train conductor in Switzerland spent 10 minutes trying to convince an American passenger that the "quiet car" sign was legitimate. "This is a scam," the American announced, sitting firmly in his seat in the designated silent carriage. You're trying to restrict where Americans can sit based on arbitrary noise rules. That's segregation. I paid for a ticket, I can sit anywhere and talk on my phone if I want. The conductor explained that the quiet car was optional, and there were several other carriages where conversation and phone calls were welcome. Optional, the man scoffed. Then why is everyone glaring at me like I'm committing a crime? I've been on this train for 5 minutes and I've gotten more dirty looks than I've ever received in my life, just for having a normal business conversation at normal volume. This is harassment based on nationality. Swiss trains are clearly designed to discriminate against cultures that value verbal communication. He then called his wife on speakerphone to tell her about the targeted discrimination he was experiencing, while an elderly Swiss woman 2 rows ahead closed her book with an audible sigh and moved to another car entirely. When the conductor returned with a SBB policy document explaining quiet car rules in 4 languages including English, the American filmed it and posted it to LinkedIn with the caption, "European transit systems trying to regulate American business culture, this is why they're losing the innovation race." A library assistant in Vilnius had to explain to an American researcher why she couldn't use her laptop with the keyboard sound effects turned on. "But I need the clicking sound to know I'm typing correctly," the American protested. "That's how keyboards work. It's feedback. Are you telling me Lithuanian libraries expect people to type in complete silence like some kind of mime performance?" The assistant pointed out that everyone else was using laptops quietly without sound effect. "Yeah, and it's creepy," the American countered. "This whole library is like a funeral. American libraries have sounds, chairs scraping, people chatting at tables, printers running, someone's always eating chip. That's what a learning environment sounds like. This silent treatment thing is psychological manipulation to make people compliant. I bet if I looked up Lithuanian education statistics, I'd find some correlation between this forced silence and reduced critical thinking skills." She then pulled up several graphs on her phone comparing US and Lithuanian education rankings, and when Lithuania scored higher in several categories, announced the data was probably manipulated by the EU, and that silence-based learning isn't real learning anyway. The assistant watched her pack up dramatically and leave, muttering about freedom of expression, while every other person in the library continued working in peaceful silence. A noise complaint hotline operator in Bergen received a call that started normally but escalated into something she'd never quite heard before. "I need to report a neighborhood," an American voice began. "The whole thing. I've been staying here for 3 days and something is very wrong." The operator asked about the specific noise issue. "That's exactly the problem. There isn't any. I'm in a residential area with maybe 40 apartments, and I can't hear anything. No dogs barking, no kids screaming, no lawn mowers, no car alarms, no domestic arguments, no loud music. Not even traffic noise. I'm from New Jersey. I know what neighborhoods sound like." The operator explained that Bergen neighborhoods were generally quiet, with good sound insulation and noise regulations. "Noise regulations?" The American's voice rose. "You mean the government controls how much sound people can make in their own homes? Do you people not see the problem with that?" She tried to explain that it wasn't about control, just mutual respect and quality of life. "Quality of life is hearing your neighbors," he insisted. "It's knowing you're part of a community. This silence is isolating and probably violates some kind of human rights convention about social interaction. I want to file a formal complaint. Against the quietness. Against whatever is causing it. There has to be something. Maybe it's the architecture. Those thick walls are definitely suppressing normal human sounds. Maybe it's cultural pressure, everyone's too afraid to make noise. Maybe it's something in the water making people lethargic. But a neighborhood this quiet isn't natural, and I'm not going to pretend it is just because I'm a foreigner." The operator noted the complaint, knowing full well nothing would come of it, and added a comment that the caller seemed distressed by the absence of distress. After hanging up, she looked out her own window at the peaceful Bergen Street scene and wondered what it would be like to find silence so threatening that you'd call the authorities about it. The comedy of cultural dissonance often lives in the space between what we expect and what actually exists. Americans raised in environments where constant noise signals life and activity sometimes interpret European quietness as absence rather than intentionality. It's the difference between chaos as comfort and calm as courtesy, and that gap produces some genuinely bewildering moments for everyone involved. Next time, when Americans discover that European grocery stores close on Sundays and decide it's a government conspiracy to control food access.